All right. So Eric Vickery and Dr. Michael Goldberg on our, I guess you'd call them, I don't know, monthly fireside chats we do. We thought, you know what? Let's record this and get it out there for others to benefit from. We'd love just to mastermind ourselves and talk about how we coach our clients and give advice. So take it away, Dr. Goldberg.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to like Dennis Prager. So that's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
admission.
I'm with you on that. Yeah. I like his intelligence.
It's interesting. I happen to know his brother.
Oh, okay.
So his brother lives in town here. He's a pulmonologist at Columbia.
Okay.
So we were on faculty together, and he's really, I mean, brilliant family, the entire family.
Yeah.
Just amazing people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love his fireside chat. So
yeah. This is what we're doing. We're doing fireside chats. We just don't have the leather
seat.
I
should bring the dog in. So my dog won't sit still like his dog does.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we're talking about mastermind groups. Yeah.
Oh, so mastermind groups.
Yeah.
I've been involved with the mastermind group since 2006. And it was a group that was sparked by Dan Kennedy, who's a marketing guru, when he got diabetes. So Dan gets diabetes and discusses it with his dentist, and his dentist says, there's an opportunity here, because most dentists, this is back in, again, 2005 and 6, most dentists don't know much about diabetes. And its interrelationship with dentistry. And I mean, we now, I hope most of us now appreciate the significant back and forth that the oral environment and diabetes share. But back then, not so much so.
Yeah.
I happen to have been the director of a hospital residency program. So for me, this was like, of course.
It's all connected.
Anyway, so they started a mastermind group. It was actually called Dentistry for Diabetics. And it morphed. The Dentistry for Diabetics stuff didn't, the challenge that everyone has with some of these things, that these dental programs that sound great, is how do you make them work within the dental office and make money?
Yeah. Because
if there's no money, there's no mission. And that was part of the problem. I'm very much involved with Jamison Spencer and dental sleep medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a big problem. I mean, it's actually why I became involved with his group, because there were lots of doctors who look at dental sleep medicine, or dentistry for diabetes, or oral systemic dentistry, or, whatever the new flavor of the month is. And they started, it's great, I'm going to do all the education. So, some of that stuff can be really expensive. You can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there's a guy in dental sleep medicine who's charging people that kind of money for his, magic formula. But how do you make it work within the practice? How do you make it not only work, but how do you make it make money? And that's always been a challenge. And it's hard because it involves everything. So, you can't just plug it in and play unless you have an existing really, really, really healthy system. Because when you start plugging these things into an unhealthy system, it will make it unhealthier. right?
And frustration ensues.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I use the analogy. So I sold my practice in 2018. I had a significant practice, and I moved it into an existing group practice. And it sort of broke the bank. So, I had a really highly functional practice. And even though, they looked at my practice, they spent some time, they saw what I was doing. You bring a $2.5 million practice even to it was a $7.5 million practice. It becomes a $10 million practice. And the little cracks became chasms.
Mm.
And people were unhappy, and there were all kinds of issues that cropped up. So so when you go and you consult with a practice that wants to implement or institute some kind of process, you basically have to start at square one and evaluate everything. And that's what the Mastermind did for me.
And it reveals some things that you don't maybe even know. You don't know what you don't know. But also, here's what I run into. You have team members who are at different levels of expertise in these areas. And for some people, that chasm is bigger for someone who's new. And yet you have this experienced person who's going to have their own issues, right? They're going to have issues. But that person doesn't always understand why we're starting down here at square one going, why are we talking about how to schedule correctly? I've been scheduling for 10 years. So how do you win that team member over and get the doctor to win them over? And how do you get everybody on board with saying, okay, we got to start at square one, even though we know this is this fine point of achievement that we want to implement. But down here at the foundation, we got issues, could be all sorts of various things. And everybody's at different levels. How do you figure out where to start with them and train them and get them on board?
So, beforehand, I was telling you about this revelation that I had.
Yeah.
And like I said, it should have been apparent, but it wasn't. So I met with one of my mastermind buddies. Now he does all on four a lot.
Okay.
Maybe more than any other individual practice in the country.
Okay.
And he's traveled to Portugal and Barcelona and California. I mean, he does zygomatic implants. I mean, guy's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's big ticket items. I mean, so his average ticket is probably $35,000.
Yeah.
So big ticket items. And he's a private client of Dan Kennedy's. So he says to me, so I said, okay, what pearls have you gotten from Dan recently? He said, well, I've increased you talk about scheduling, I've increased the time that I take for my initial consults to 2 hours. I'm like, 2 hours? I mean, I thought my intake used to be like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I thought that was crazy.
Yeah.
But he brought up a point. He said, and this is something that I love to bring to my clients. Dentists know dentistry.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned from Dan is that it's really great to adopt from other businesses, things that work well.
Yep.
So if you look at the automotive business, what the automotive business knows is that the longer a person stays in the showroom, the more likely they will be to buy a car. And that's why they put in, little cafes. They want to make it, I mean, again, sort of pre-COVID, but
yeah, I get you.
Hope it'll be gone one day. And the same holds true for websites. Everyone knows that the longer
Oh,
the
yeah.
person is on the website, the more likely they are to buy from that person. So what he's doing, he's taking what works in other industries and he's transferring it to the dental industry. And he's saying, hey, listen, somebody comes into your office, they're basically buying a car. It's going to cost the same or more. Why not do the same thing that they do? Have them keep them in that office. Not, again, do nice things, give them the coffee and, give them the tour, show them the service area, give them the whole experience. And I mean, I said to him, how much time do you spend? He said, he said, it's interesting. He said, I like to spend time. So if I can, I won't side book anything. I won't have anybody side book, or if I'm open, I'll come in and I'll do stuff. Most of the stuff is done by auxiliaries.
That's an important fact right there. It's not 2 hours of doctor time.
No, it's not 2 hours, which is why scheduling is so, which is why the scheduling is so important. So you have to go back to the basics and figure out how to schedule this properly. And I said to him, it was interesting. I said, because we're all into measurements. So how effective are things, metrics. So I said to him, have you tracked whether or not the amount of time that you spend with the new patient results in a higher acceptance rate?
Mm-hmm.
And his answer was no.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, which is great because he didn't make it about him. And that's the big mistake that most doctors make.
Yeah.
They make it about themselves rather than about the system.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I tell people, if you, God forbid, had to go to the Cleveland Clinic, do you know who you're going to see? Probably not. You're going to the Cleveland Clinic because the Cleveland Clinic has the brand, the name. So the doctor is almost irrelevant. Well, the problem that most dentists have is they paint themselves into a box and they make it about themselves instead of about the systems and about the experience that somebody has while they're in the office.
So
very
good.
Very little of which needs to be with the doctor themselves. And the less the better.
Yeah. I mean, this is the Mastermind continued because now I'm going, okay, and history of Mastermind groups and things like that. So two things pop in my head. We've talked about friction points and things like that before, where dentistry has this inherent problem where we make it difficult for people to do business with us. And we go, well, our next 2-hour new patient opening is in November because my doctor wants to spend an hour and a half with you or whatever it is, right? It's like, no, you don't want to wait 2 months to come in. You're going to go somewhere else. So the key point being is don't have these friction points in your business that, or at least the perception that they exist, that make it difficult for people to do business with you. And you made a very subtle but very key point is it's not 2 hours of doctor time. It's not about the doctor. It's about having a well-trained team that closes those gaps, that closes those big openings, that creates a great foundation where you can trust who's on your team to greet that patient, to do a preclinical conversation with them, to give them the tour of the practice, to sit and talk with them and get to know them. And the next thing that it created for me was Ted Morgan, who's a phenomenal dentist in Maine, wrote an article for one of the, I won't name names, but a great magazine, but it's about economics and dentistry, we'll say it that way. But he called it the trust curve. And he had, spent a lot of time training me. He's one of my first mentors. I consult his practice. And, he basically said, what you're saying is the more time you spend with a patient, if you're really good at what you do, the greater your relationship will be, right? Which will increase trust. And case acceptance is in direct relationship. The ratio is the same between trust and case acceptance. The greater the trust, the greater the level of case acceptance will occur. And when you're doing $35,000 cases, they're not going to move forward with you if they don't have some level of trust, which will begin before they ever meet you. What did the referral source say? How much time did they spend on the website? Are they looking at your social media? Is there some sort of pre-engagement that's preparing them for this relationship?
He has a magazine. He has a magazine that, I don't know, it must be about 30 pages. And it's all about the process. It's all about stories. I mean, there's a lot of we call it pre-framing.
Yep.
So there's a lot of pre-framing going on. And that's, I had a question from a client. He says, I think I'm going to be doing some advertising, some marketing for dental sleep medicine. Or he says, I'm doing some marketing for dental sleep medicine. How do I get the people at the front desk to screen the patients so that I don't get basically tire kickers coming into my operatory? So I said, I was a little blunt. I said, you put the cart before the horse. If you're doing marketing, good marketing should be doing the screening for you. If you're throwing out a big net and you're catching all kinds of junk fish, and then you have to throw them back, you're creating a lot more work for your team. Yeah. So this pre-framing starts, you're right, it starts with your referral sources, with your marketing, with the messaging that goes out before the patient ever gets in the office.
Yep.
And if you do that well, that increases your case acceptance precipitously. I mean, it just will blow it through the roof.
Organically. And you bring up a really good point. We're so focused on how do I teach my team to handle the question like, do you take my insurance? Do you bill insurance in your office? Or how much does this cost? And how do I weed out patients, or how do I find the right patients? And yes, those things are important. Those are those cracks that have to be filled. But when you have a bunch of patients calling you, asking you if you take, in Connecticut, Husky, Medicaid, in California, Medi-Cal, how are these patients finding you? And first of all, do you know how to convert them into a cash pay patient or whatever? But secondly, as you make a great point, is, well, maybe my marketing or maybe my referral sources aren't doing their job the way we want them to do. Ask those patients, how did you hear about don't just go, oh, we don't take Husky, we don't take Medicaid. Get in a conversation with them and say, I'd be happy to help you out with that. Again, my name is, and your name is, right? And when was the last time we saw you in your practice? Be assumptive, do this whole thing, but get to a point where you say, how did you hear about our practice? Write it down. How are these patients finding you? Are you able to convert them to cash pay? If not, what's this? This is a sign or a symptom that something is broken earlier, right?
So I learned that early on. So, because I was in a mastermind group that was basically started by a marketer, we were focusing on marketing. So back in 2006, the internet was relatively young, and, Google was young and search was young. I don't know if they had Google reviews back then. They certainly didn't have Google Places, but we started early on doing a lot of these things and, building a website, and I hired a company that specialized in dental websites. And I think it was, so all of a sudden, a great front desk, and the front desk admin comes to me. She says, I don't know what's going on, but we're getting a lot of Medicaid patients calling.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the practice was on 57th Street in Manhattan. We didn't really have very many Medicaid patients. So we didn't have any Medicaid patients.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, well, what are they asking? And they said something about free dentistry. I said, whoa, 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 whoa.
Two
look,
words you've never uttered together in your life.
No, you know what? My, I don't know if you know this, my big charity is a free children's dental clinic in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
I go and I volunteer and I help raise funds.
Beautiful. Yeah.
We're actually having our 40th anniversary gala November, right after Thanksgiving, the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And they're honoring me, which is nice. But that's so free dentistry.
Congratulations.
No problem. I
Yeah.
volunteer at, before I was full-time faculty at Columbia, I volunteered in the clinic, and, everybody deserves care, but maybe not on 57th Street.
I got you.
Where I'm paying $75 a square foot rent. So I finally, I looked at the website, and on the website, it said free consultation for cosmetics things, whatever it was. And back then, Google search was not that sophisticated, and it focused on free. So the fact that I had free on the website, when someone Googled search free dentistry, the free came up because my website was highly visible. So it had all the good things for search, but it also made it come up for the word free dentistry. So I learned the lesson early on. You have to be really, really careful what your keywords are. You have to be very careful what you write.
That's right.
Because if people search for things,
and it works, if it works,
so I learned the pre-framing lesson in the negative.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Well, and here's what we do. We're circular. We keep running the same problem, running the same problem. Hey, how to deal with this problem, instead of why does this problem keep showing up? Right. And so this is a client story to me, right? They're like, yeah, we had this patient call and we know some things about her. We couldn't quite figure out, they were trying to deal with the problem. I said, all right, let's just role play it. Okay. I'll be you be the patient. So I answer the phone, she's Betty White, an older lady. And I say, well, thank you for calling us. And, I'm curious, how did you hear about us? Okay. She leaves with, do you take Medicaid? That's the question she asks when we answer the phone. I'd be happy to help you out with that. Tell me your name. I'm Eric. What's your name? We begin the conversation and we're just talking and role playing this out. And I said, well, who may we thank for referring you to our practice? She goes, oh, well, my sisters at my retirement home come to see you and they sent me to you. So right there, I push the pause button. I go, it's not that she needs to have Medicaid be the reason why she comes to see you. She's coming to see you because her friends, her sisters at the retirement home have sent her. They all come to see you. They all have a Medicaid. They're just not using it. Now, be smart enough to get to this point with your verbiage and then say, well, we'd love to take care of you the same way we took care of your sisters. We have you come in, we have a membership plan in our office, or whatever you want to do. And you just connect that, and she just doesn't realize people don't know sometimes what to ask. So if you don't investigate to find out, oh, my website is sending Medicaid patients to me, versus, oh, I have patients who just don't know what to ask, and I don't have the verbiage to fill that gap, that void, to convert them into a patient who then I can now get in a conversation about sleep apnea or all on four, whatever it is. I can't get to those big things if I can't get over the little speed bumps. And those are little friction points that we have to be aware of, whether it's a marketing issue or whether it's just figuring out how to converse with the patient clearly. So, yeah.
Look, and people underestimate, the way the phone is answered, and I don't minimize it. I know that I've taught people how to answer the phone, and yet I remember sitting in the office one day, and for some odd reason, the phone was ringing and it wasn't being picked up, and I picked up the phone, and boy, did I screw it up. And I looked at myself after, I said, but you know better. And it's because I wasn't practicing it. Right. So it was a revelation to me how difficult answering the phone is. And that's one of the reasons, by the way. So go back to, how do you tell the person who's at this level that you have to go and start? There's value. There's so much value in going over things, because things slip through the cracks. You might have, let things get a little sloppy or messy in one area. And by going through the processes again, you tighten them up a bit. So even the experienced person, even me, right, who is teaching this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned so much by doing it again.
Yeah.
I think we don't give enough credence to the value.
That's right.
Of doing things, just going, it's just going through your office.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to, I love checklists, because otherwise I don't remember anything. So,
yeah.
I mean, so the ultimate checklist in our office was a calendar. So we had on the calendar everything, including, and this was a mastermind idea that I got, including when to do a walkthrough to reevaluate the office. So we would do it monthly, every month. I mean, I'm talking about making sure, I'm not talking about making sure there's no dust. That's like every day.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about making sure that, the paint's not chipping, you go outside, what does the signage look like? I mean, a real evaluation on a monthly basis. And you should do that for most systems.
And it's all your senses. Think about when you do a practice evaluation, you're evaluating with all of your senses, and you're evaluating all your systems, and verbal skills are a system. And so you're listening, you're observing the practice, and you don't need to throw people under the bus. You don't need to blame other people. You say, hey, we have a system that is not ideal. How do we get it there? Here's what we're hearing we're overhearing these things being said. We're seeing these things happen. You walk in a dental office and you've been there a long time, you don't notice the smell sometimes, just a simple thing. So if you hear a patient walk in the door and say, oh, there's that dental smell, that should trigger something for you, because it's triggering something for them. And how do you address those things?
Maybe that's a great point. So my motto in my practice was treating causes before symptoms. So if you look how most dental practices grow, they grow organically. There's a small practice and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So as it becomes bigger, you add new staff, you add new systems, maybe you start some consulting, and then you have more things. And because it started out a one way, sometimes that way continues until it's sort of like the Peter principle, until it gets to the point where it can no longer support the growth or the structure that has resulted. And that's why going back to the original seed and seeing what needed to be changed or may not have been changed is so important. I think that's, if anybody takes anything away from what we've just said, I think that may be the most valuable thing, to go ahead and to revisit certain things to see how they are, maybe impeding the growth. I'm a big fan of Vern Harnish and scaling up. And that's one of the principles that he discusses. What takes a practice to $500,000 a year won't take it to $1 million. And what takes a practice from $1 million won't take it to $2 million. There are things that need to be not just added, but modified and then added.
And why are we changing this? The team will say, why are we changing this? Why are we doing this different? You got to be able to explain. You hit a plateau. You got to be able to break through this. You have a new glass ceiling. We're trying to lift that ceiling up. So here's what I think we should do. I'm going to put in my notes that our next fireside chat is proper practice evaluations, being aware of that, but also scaling up. What are some things that take it from this level to that level? We'll just mastermind some ideas we've seen work. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
All right. We'll end it here. So it's Dr. Michael Goldberg, Eric Vickery, coaches. We're here just masterminding and fireside chatting. And so we thank you so much for joining us.